You don't recall saying things. Should I have opened up enough? And then you're proud that you did. So put it this way, it's a very, very peak and valley situation in a good way.
Sylvester Stallone, an icon, a legend, and the epitome of grit in Hollywood. From Rocky to Rambo, Stallone has carved a path in cinema that few can rival. But behind the bulging muscles and billion-dollar box office numbers, Stallone's journey through Tinseltown hasn't always been smooth. Over the decades, he's clashed with co-stars, gotten into verbal brawls with fellow actors, and found himself on the receiving end of more than a few Hollywood vendettas. While the title might tease you with a list of names he hated, the truth is far more nuanced and juicier. What we're diving into today are the legendary feuds, uncomfortable on-set tensions, and brutally honest interviews that show which actors really rubbed Stallone the wrong way, and vice versa. From ego-driven rivalries to explosive behind-the-scenes showdowns, some of these stories are downright shocking. So grab your popcorn and sit tight, because we're going deep into the 5 most intense Hollywood feuds that Sylvester Stallone has ever been involved in. There was a time when Hollywood wasn't big enough for both Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. These two weren't just action heroes, they were gods of muscle-bound mayhem, and their rivalry burnt hotter than a machine gun muzzle flash in a jungle shootout. Every blockbuster they starred in was another round in a cinematic boxing match. Rocky versus Terminator, Rambo versus Commando. This wasn't friendly competition, it was psychological warfare. Stallone once confessed they could not stand to be in the same room. And it shows. From who had the bigger biceps to who racked up the most explosive kills, everything was a contest. Arnold upped the body count in Predator. Stallone would answer with Rambo. First Blood, Part 2. Then came the paycheck wars, each one demanding more zeros just to outdo the other. But nothing compares to the cold-blooded sabotage Arnold pulled with Stop, or My Mom Will Shoot. Knowing it was a guaranteed flop, Arnold pretended to be interested in the script, just loud enough for Stallone's ego to catch wind. Stallone, not wanting to be one-upped, snatched it up. And just like that, Schwarzenegger played him like a violin in a tank top. The film bombed, and Arnold laughed all the way to the weight rack. But here's the twist. That fire drove them. Stallone would later admit their rivalry was life-or-death level, forcing him to train harder, act bolder, and never back down. It wasn't until years later, when both men had survived the action hero era, that they put the past behind them. Co-starring in The Expendables signaled a truce. But make no mistake, the war that led there was real. Their rivalry wasn't just the stuff of headlines. It was a brutal, testosterone-fueled saga that shaped an entire generation of action cinema. The feud between Sylvester Stallone and Richard Gere didn't start on a red carpet. It started in the cramped back seat of a car, fueled by mustard, egos, and rising tempers. This wasn't your typical Hollywood squabble. It was raw and unfiltered, and nearly came to blows, literally. Back in 1974, both Stallone and Gere were up-and-coming actors cast in The Lords of Flatbush, a gritty drama about streetwise kids in Brooklyn. Sounds promising, right? Not for long. According to Stallone, Gere quickly made himself unbearable on set. The tension simmered until it boiled over during a rehearsal inside a car where they were supposed to be filming a relatively calm scene. Then, bam! Gere, reportedly eating greasy chicken smothered in mustard, leaned too far and spilt it all over Stallone's pants. That was the last straw. Stallone didn't hold back. He snapped. Gere snapped back, and the entire set nearly exploded into chaos. Stallone later admitted punches almost flew. The director had seen enough and made the call. Gere was out. Just like that, Richard Gere was booted from the movie and replaced by Perry King. You'd think time would cool tempers. Not here. Decades passed, and when asked about Gere, Stallone didn't mince words. He still believed Gere doesn't like me. And from what insiders have said, the feeling is mutual. There's been no public reconciliation, no friendly handshake at an awards show. Just lingering tension between two men who never saw eye to eye. What makes this feud so captivating is how early and intensely personal it was. Long before Stallone was Rocky and Gere was Pretty Woman's leading man, they were just two hungry actors. But even then, the spotlight wasn't big enough for both. An industry driven by ego and image, sometimes all it takes is mustard in the wrong place to spark a feud that lasts a lifetime. Sylvester Stallone and Bruce Willis were once action movie royalty, marching side by side. A dynamic duo born from the bullets and bravado of Hollywood's golden era of explosions. Stallone had Rocky and Rambo. Willis had Die Hard. Together, they were unstoppable. So when Stallone assembled the ultimate action dream team for The Expendables, bringing in Willis was a no-brainer. Fans were ecstatic. Two legends finally sharing the screen. But behind the scenes, the bond was already fraying. The real rupture came during the production of The Expendables 3. Willis, reportedly offered $3 million for 4 days of work, demanded a jaw-dropping $4 million, $1 million per day. Stallone, who had always prided himself on brotherhood and loyalty among action icons, saw it as a betrayal, and instead of handling it quietly, he took it straight to Twitter. Greedy and lazy, a sure formula for career failure. That tweet hit like a grenade in the tabloids. The message was crystal clear and brutal. Stallone had fired the first public shot in a war no one saw coming. In a swift move, Willis was out, and Harrison Ford was in. Just like that, one of action cinema's most legendary friendships was torched in front of the entire world. What followed was pure silence. Willis never fired back, never gave interviews, never addressed the insult. Stallone, for his part, never retracted the tweet or issued an apology. The silence only made the tension louder. Two of the biggest names in action movies, now locked in a Cold War with no explosions, just smoldering resentment. Fans still wonder what really happened behind closed doors. Was it just money? Or something deeper? Whatever the case, the fall of this bromance was as shocking as any twist in an action movie. And the fact they haven't reunited since? That says more than any tweet ever could. Few rivalries in Hollywood packed as much literal punch as the one between Sylvester Stallone and Dolph Lundgren. It all began with Rocky IV, a film that gave us the unforgettable image of Ivan Drago towering over a bloodied Rocky Balboa. But behind the scenes, the punches were real, and so was the damage. During one of their brutal fight scenes, Lundgren landed a blow so devastating that it sent Stallone straight to the hospital. His chest began to swell, and his blood pressure spiked. Doctors thought his heart had been injured. Stallone spent days in intensive care. This wasn't just a movie stunt gone wrong, it was a near-death experience. Stallone later revealed, "He pulverized me. I had to fight to breathe." And that kind of trauma doesn't just heal with bandages. Tensions lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. Stallone took issue with what he called Lundgren's attitude on set, claiming he had to put him in his place. The physical pain morphed into something deeper. a rivalry rooted in ego, pride, and real-life bruises. For years, they kept their distance, both professionally and personally. But Hollywood has a funny way of forcing reunions, and decades later, the unthinkable happened. They patched things up. Lundgren returned as Gunnar Jensen in the Expendables franchise, side by side with Stallone, proving that time and box office success can heal even the deepest cuts. They took it a step further when Lundgren reprised his role as Ivan Drago in Creed II, facing the legacy of their shared cinematic past. Still, that scar of Rocky IV remains. This wasn't just a feud fueled by words. It was one forged through cracked ribs and real punches. Among all of Stallone's rivalries, this one stands out not just for the pain it caused, but for the fact that they somehow turned it into respect, maybe even friendship. When Mel Gibson was cast as the main villain in The Expendables 3, jaws dropped, not just from excitement, but from pure shock. At the time, Gibson was neck-deep in controversy, battling public fallout from explosive scandals that had torched his reputation. And yet, Stallone went all in. He defended Gibson, calling him a genius and brushing off the backlash. For a moment, it looked like Stallone was giving Gibson a lifeline. But what started as a bold move quickly spiraled into chaos. Behind the scenes, things reportedly got ugly. Crew members began whispering about Gibson being impossible to direct. Rumors swirled that he constantly pushed back against Stallone, challenging the vision for the film and clashing over key scenes. It wasn't just creative differences, it became a power struggle. Insiders even claimed there were full-blown screaming matches on set, with Stallone and Gibson going head-to-head like two alpha wolves fighting for dominance. Stallone never went public with the details, but his silence spoke volumes. He had fiercely defended Gibson at the start, but after the film wrapped, something shifted. When The Expendables 4 came around, Gibson was nowhere to be found. No mention, no cameo, no invitation. It was as if Stallone had slammed the door shut, quietly but firmly. The drama left fans buzzing. Stallone regrets backing Gibson? Was it all just a professional misfire? Or did their partnership collapse under the weight of egos and old baggage? Either way, the message was clear. What could have been a powerful comeback for Gibson turned into a one-and-done performance. In the world of high-octane action films, personalities can be just as combustible as the explosives on screen. And in this case, two cinematic legends collided, but only one walked away with control. The partnership didn't explode, but it definitely imploded. In the high-octane universe of exploding helicopters and muscle-bound heroes, Jean-Claude Van Damme was supposed to be a perfect fit. When Stallone handpicked him for The Expendables, fans expected a dream team. But Van Damme shocked everyone. He said no. He didn't like the script, didn't connect with the character, and turned Stallone down flat. That was all it took to light a fuse. Stallone didn't hold back. In interviews, he made veiled digs about actors who think they're too good for ensemble roles, clearly throwing shade at Van Damme. The message was loud and clear. In Stallone's world, there's no room for prima donnas. But things took a twist. For The Expendables 2, Van Damme changed his mind and signed on, this time as the main villain. It was a huge get for the franchise, but the tension didn't disappear. If anything, it got worse. Stallone later admitted that working with Van Damme was a challenge. He described him as very particular and hinted at battles over direction and character motivation. Meanwhile, Van Damme claimed he just wanted to add more depth and complexity to his villainous role. Stallone, however, reportedly saw that as an unnecessary complication. Their disagreements didn't boil over into full-on explosions, but the on-set atmosphere was thick with unspoken frustration. Still, professionalism won out. The film got made, the fight scenes were electric, and fans got their dose of epic martial arts mayhem. But when The Expendables 3 rolled around, Van Damme was gone. No return, no explanation, just silence. The hatchet may have been buried, but it was never forgotten. In an industry where every scene demands dominance, Van Damme and Stallone clashed like two titans of testosterone. They gave fans what they wanted on screen, but behind the camera, it was a battle of wills neither was eager to repeat. In the ever-evolving world of Hollywood action, one unexpected spark came from a surprising duo, Sylvester Stallone and Kevin Hart. What started as a casual comment soon ignited headlines. During a press junket, Stallone was asked about the state of modern action films. His reply? A razor-sharp jab that turned heads. It's not action if you're making jokes every 5 seconds. That's stand-up comedy with car chases. No names were dropped, but the subtext was deafening. At the time, Kevin Hart was riding high off the success of Central Intelligence, a buddy action comedy with Dwayne Johnson that leaned heavily into humor. Fans and reporters quickly connected the dots. Was Stallone slamming Hart's comedic style? It sure looked that way. Kevin Hart, never one to back down from a roast, clapped back with a grin. "Well, Sly is too old to keep up with me anyway," he quipped. Cue the laughter. But behind the jokes, there was an undercurrent of real tension, a generational divide in how action heroes are defined. Stallone, the embodiment of gritty, no-nonsense masculinity, built his legacy on blood, sweat, and serious stares. His version of action was brutal and raw and never broke the fourth wall for a cheap laugh. So when comedy started creeping into the genre, replacing grit with gags, it clearly hit a nerve. Stallone's comment wasn't just about Hart. It was a warning shot at what he saw as the dilution of action cinema. Though the clash never escalated into a true feud, it marked a cultural moment. The old guard meeting the new school. One side favored machine guns and monologues. Other, jokes and jet skis. And while they've never shared the screen, the tension still lingers in the subtext. In a world where laughter and explosions now go hand in hand, Stallone made it clear. He's not laughing. The dynamic between Sylvester Stallone and Michael B. Jordan began as a powerful alliance and quietly turned into one of Hollywood's most whispered-about fractures. When Creed hit theaters in 2015, it wasn't just a new chapter in the Rocky saga, it was a full-blown resurrection. Jordan's portrayal of Adonis Creed electrified audiences, while Stallone returned as a grizzled, heartfelt version of Rocky Balboa that earned him a well-deserved Oscar nomination. The chemistry between the two was undeniable, but by the time Creed III arrived, Stallone had vanished. Not a cameo, not a producing credit, nothing. Stallone later revealed he was deeply unhappy with the creative direction of the third film, saying it lacked the heart and soul that defined the Rocky legacy. He openly pointed fingers at ATG-time producer Irwin Winkler, claiming he was pushed out. Yet he never directly called out Jordan, who had taken over as both the star and director. Still, the silence was deafening. "It's not my Rocky anymore," Stallone admitted. That one sentence sent shockwaves through the fan base. Many speculated that the shift wasn't just about creative differences, it was about power. Jordan, stepping into the role of filmmaker, now had complete control over the franchise. Stallone, the original architect of Rocky, was on the outside looking in. Was it ego? Generational shift? Artistic vision? Whatever the reason, the tension was there, unspoken, but palpable. Stallone's absence from Creed 3 wasn't just a creative choice, it felt like a quiet exclamation point at the end of an era, a symbolic split between past and future. And while neither man has aired dirty laundry publicly, the divide marks a rare case where the torch was passed but not necessarily embraced on both sides. In the world Stallone built, even successors can become silent rivals. When Wesley Snipes joined The Expendables 3, fans expected an explosive comeback. Fresh out of prison and ready to reclaim his action star throne, Snipes looked like the perfect fit for Stallone's ragtag crew of aging warriors. But behind the scenes, things were far less cinematic. Insiders say Snipes brought more than just muscles to the set. He brought an ego. According to reports, he frequently challenged Stallone's direction, improvising lines, changing choreography, and slowing down production. For a director and producer like Stallone, who runs a tight ship and thrives on discipline, this was a ticking time bomb. Tension mounted. Crew members whispered about heated exchanges, and Stallone was allegedly so fed up, he considered cutting Snipes' role entirely. While the final cut of the film kept Snipes in, the message was clear. He wouldn't be back. When The Expendables 4 was announced, Snipes' name was nowhere to be found. Even more telling, Stallone, known for shouting out his castmates during interviews and press junkets, completely ghosted Snipes. No mention, no gratitude, no acknowledgement. It was as if Snipes had never been part of the franchise at all. And fans noticed. The silence spoke louder than any tweet or tabloid headline. For someone like Stallone, who's known to forgive but not forget, the cold shoulder said everything. It was yet another example of Stallone's no-nonsense approach to Hollywood. Bring your best, follow the plan, or get out of the way. Whether it was a creative clash or a personality conflict, Snipes learnt the hard way. Stallone doesn't play games. He may build legends, but if you bring drama to his set, you won't survive the sequel. Sylvester Stallone has faced down villains on screen, but the real-life feuds and tensions in Hollywood were just as explosive. Whether it's rivalries, betrayals, or broken friendships. His journey through stardom has been anything but boring. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Do you think Stallone was in the right? Or were some of these beefs overblown? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you love this deep dive into behind-the-scenes Hollywood drama, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a bombshell story again. We've got more drama, legends, and revelations coming your way.